Andy Warhol was more than just an artist. He was a cultural phenomenon. Born in 1928 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Warhol transformed the way people viewed art, blending commercial imagery with high art. His unique style, known as pop art, took inspiration from everyday objects, advertisements, and celebrity culture. By turning mundane items like Campbell's soup cans and Coca-Cola bottles into art, Warhol challenged traditional notions of artistic value. His vision blurred the line between consumerism and creativity, forever changing the landscape of modern art. Warhol's fascination with fame and mass production extended beyond his paintings. He pioneered screen printing, a technique that allowed him to produce multiple versions of the same image, emphasizing repetition and accessibility. Through this, he captured the essence of an era obsessed with celebrity, producing iconic portraits of Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, and even Mao Zedong. His New York studio, The Factory, became a hub for artists, musicians, and socialites, cementing his status as a cultural icon. But Warhol's influence wasn't limited to visual art. He ventured into filmmaking, music production, and even publishing, constantly pushing the boundaries of artistic expression. His films, often unconventional and experimental, challenged traditional cinema and laid the groundwork for avant-garde filmmaking. His magazine, Interview, gave a platform to rising stars and cultural figures, further reinforcing his impact on pop culture. Even decades after his passing in 1987, Warhol's legacy continues to shape the art world. His bold colors, repeated images, and fascination with celebrity culture remain relevant, proving that his work was not just about the present, it was about the future. Warhol's ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary ensures that his name will forever be synonymous with innovation, creativity, and the endless possibilities of art. Andy Warhol didn't invent pop art, but he defined it like no other. The movement emerged in the 1950s as a reaction against abstract expressionism, embracing imagery from mass media, advertising, and popular culture. Warhol saw beauty in everyday objects and turned them into icons, elevating soup cans, Brillo boxes, and comic strips into high art. His work challenged the notion that art had to be rare or exclusive. Instead, he believed in mass production, reflecting the consumer-driven world around him. Warhol's artistic breakthrough came in 1962 with his Campbell's soup can series, consisting of 32 canvases, each featuring a different flavor. The artwork shocked the traditional art world. Some critics dismissed it as commercial gimmickry, but others saw it as a revolutionary statement. Warhol wasn't painting a soup can, he was redefining what art could be. His work asked, why should a portrait of a soup can be any less artistic than a portrait of a queen? From there, Warhol pushed pop art further. He created silkscreen prints of celebrities like Marilyn Monroe and Elizabeth Taylor, repeating their images over and over. This technique mirrored how mass media bombarded people with images of stars. The repetition wasn't just artistic, it reflected the way society consumed fame, reducing celebrities to mere products. Warhol turned the world into an endless loop of imagery, questioning how we perceive art, fame, and culture itself. Andy Warhol didn't just paint celebrities, he understood them. He saw fame as a product, just like soup cans and dollar bills. His silkscreen portraits of Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, and Elizabeth Taylor transformed these stars into icons, reducing their faces to bold colors and repeated prints. Warhol believed that in a world driven by mass media, everyone could become famous. His most famous prediction, in the future, everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes, perfectly captured the rise of reality TV and social media influencers decades later. But Warhol wasn't just fascinated by celebrities, he created them. The factory was filled with misfits and unknowns whom Warhol turned into superstars. Edie Sedgwick, his most famous muse, became a legend simply by being around him. He proved that fame didn't require talent, just visibility. His films and art blurred the line between the famous and the ordinary, proving that celebrity was just another product of the media machine. Warhol's own celebrity grew alongside his art. His deadpan interviews, silver wigs, and enigmatic persona made him as famous as the people he painted. He attended glamorous parties with the rich and famous, mingling with socialites, rock stars, and politicians. Yet, despite his obsession with fame, Warhol remained emotionally distant. He saw himself as both an observer and a participant in the celebrity world, shaping how we think about stardom today. His Marilyn Monroe series, created after a tragic death in 1962, is one of the most recognizable artworks of all time. Warhol used a publicity photo for Niagara and transformed into a psychedelic explosion of pinks, yellows, and blues. The repetition symbolized the way media sensationalized Monroe's image, reducing her identity to a mere visual commodity. Warhol wasn't just painting Marilyn. He was commenting on how society consumed and discarded celebrities. Elvis Presley, another cultural icon, also received the Warhol treatment. His ELVIS series depicted the singer in a gunslinger pose, repeated multiple times on the same canvas. The overlapping figures created a ghostly, almost cinematic effect, blending Hollywood glamour with Western mythology. Warhol's portraits of stars weren't just about admiration. They were critiques of how fame operated in the modern world, turning individuals into endlessly replicated images. Warhol's studio, the factory, wasn't just a workplace. It was a cultural epicenter. Located in New York City, it became a gathering place for artists, musicians, actors, and socialites. The walls were covered in silver foil, giving the space an otherworldly glow. Inside, Warhol's assistants mass-produced his silkscreen prints, blurring the lines between art and manufacturing. The factory was where Warhol transformed art into industry, reinforcing his belief that repetition and mass production were forms of artistic expression. The factory wasn't just about painting. It was a breeding ground for creativity in all forms. Warhol filmed experimental movies there, capturing raw, unscripted moments. Musicians like Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground rehearsed in the space, blending art with rock and roll. The environment was wild, unpredictable, and often chaotic, just like Warhol himself. Drugs, parties, and eccentric personalities filled the space, turning it into a symbol of 1960s counterculture. But the factory also reflected Warhol's obsession with celebrity. He surrounded himself with eccentric figures like Edie Sedgwick, Candy Darling, and Nico, people who embodied the glamour and excess of the era. He turned some of them into superstars, individuals famous simply for being part of his world. The factory blurred the line between reality and performance, shaping how future generations would view fame. Warhol proved that the art world wasn't just about the artwork itself. It was also about the people, the environment, and the aura surrounding it. Beyond paintings, Warhol explored filmmaking, producing hundreds of avant-garde movies. His films rejected Hollywood's polished storytelling, favoring long, unedited shots of people simply existing. Movies like Sleep, 1963, which showed a man sleeping for 5 hours, and Empire, 1964, an 8-hour static shot of the Empire State Building, challenged the very concept of cinema. These films were more than just lengthy experiments. They were statements on time, observation, and patience. One of Warhol's most famous films, Chelsea Girls, 1966, broke storytelling norms. It featured split-screen projection, showing 2 different scenes at once. It captured the raw, unfiltered lives of Warhol's muses, providing an inside look at the underground world of New York's counterculture. Some found it mesmerizing, others found it unbearable. But that was Warhol's magic, forcing people to rethink art. He made films that felt less like entertainment and more like living paintings, where every moment was an artistic decision. Warhol didn't just film people, he made them famous. His screen tests were silent, hypnotic close-ups of his factory regulars, staring into the camera for several minutes. These films were as much about human presence as they were about fame itself. By filming someone doing nothing, Warhol turned the act of watching into an artistic experience. His films captured real life, stripped of acting and plot, making audiences reconsider what was interesting and what wasn't. Warhol didn't just paint celebrities, he painted money itself. His artworks featuring dollar signs, Coca-Cola bottles, and corporate logos highlighted the deep connection between art, business, and consumerism. Unlike traditional artists who shunned commercialism, Warhol embraced it, famously saying, "Making money is art, and working is art, and good business is the best art." He saw no contradiction between capitalism and creativity. One of his most famous works, $201 bills, 1962, was a massive print of repeated dollar bills, reflecting America's obsession with wealth. He turned the most basic symbol of capitalism into high art. This blurred the line between financial power and artistic expression. Warhol's work with brands like Campbell's soup and Brillo boxes turned everyday supermarket products into museum-worthy art, proving that mass production could be beautiful. Warhol's fascination with commerce extended to his own persona. He marketed himself as a brand, turning his public image into an artwork. His silver wigs, deadpan expressions, and calculated interviews all contributed to his mystique. Warhol wasn't just painting capitalism, he was living it. His artwork was a reflection of a culture obsessed with advertising, celebrity, and consumerism. Even today, his ideas influence how brands use art, proving that Warhol was ahead of his time. With fame came danger. Warhol's life changed forever in 1968 when radical feminist writer Valerie Solanas shot him at close range. Solanas, a troubled figure who had appeared in one of Warhol's films, believed he was conspiring against her. The attack nearly killed Warhol. He was rushed to the hospital and underwent hours of surgery, barely surviving. The shooting left him physically and emotionally scarred, forever changing his personality and artistic approach. Before the attack, Warhol's life at the factory had been wild, filled with parties, drugs, and artistic chaos. But after the shooting, he became more cautious. His work took a commercial turn, focusing more on commission portraits for the wealthy and influential. Some critics argue that Warhol lost his rebellious edge after the incident, but others see this period as an evolution of his understanding of art as business. Despite his near-death experience, Warhol continued to push artistic boundaries. He explored new mediums, from photography to television. His show, Andy Warhol's TV, was a strange and ahead-of-its-time experiment, featuring interviews with celebrities, artists, and eccentric figures. Warhol embraced technology and consumer culture, proving that even after tragedy, he could reinvent himself. Andy Warhol didn't just create art, he changed the way we see the world. His vision blurred the lines between high and low culture, making everyday objects and celebrities into something iconic. His influence extends far beyond galleries. Today, pop art is everywhere, from advertising to fashion, music, and even social media. His philosophy, that fame is fleeting and everything is commercial, has never been more relevant. Warhol's fingerprints are all over modern pop culture. Music videos, digital art, and viral trends all reflect his obsession with mass media. Artists like Banksy and Jeff Koons follow his legacy, turning commercialism into art. Even Instagram culture, where ordinary people turn themselves into brands, is a reflection of Warhol's belief that everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. His works remain some of the most valuable and recognizable in the world. Museums and collectors still fight over his pieces, proving that Warhol's commentary on mass production applies even to his own art. His New York studio, The Factory, is long gone, but its spirit lives on an artist who challenged the boundaries between art, business, and celebrity. Andy Warhol is more than just an artist. He's a phenomenon. Decades after his death in 1987, his work remains as influential as ever. He redefined art, celebrity, and commerce, proving that culture itself could be mass-produced. His impact is visible in everything from advertisements to social media, where aesthetics and branding have become a form of self-expression. Warhol wasn't just predicting the future, he was shaping it. His legacy lives on through his art, but also through his ideas. The notion that art is business continues to challenge the traditional ways we view creativity. In an era where influencers, brands, and celebrities dominate digital culture, Warhol's vision of fame as a product is more relevant than ever. His philosophy of embracing consumerism and turning the ordinary into the extraordinary has inspired generations of artists to push boundaries. Ultimately, Andy Warhol achieved what he always wanted: immortality. His works, his theories, and his iconic image are still discussed, analyzed, and celebrated worldwide. He turned everyday objects and faces into legends, and in doing so, became a legend himself. Warhol may be gone, but his influence is everywhere. Whether we realize it or not, we are all living in Andy Warhol's world.